Thank
Go.
you, Dave.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dave Emmons Show. And as usual, I have a great guest today, and I know you're going to enjoy her. And before we get to my guest, I want to hawk a couple of books. I do this all the time, and I guess you people know that this is my first book. That's my UFO adventures, and then the second book is Senseless Wars, War Memoirs, my war memoirs, and also the senseless wars that we've been fighting for some time. And also, I got a third book that's coming out in 2 weeks, Angels, and it's going to be supernatural entities involved in that too. And I'm going to be talking a lot of stuff on that. I'm doing my first show on that book tomorrow night with another a network, and then I'll be doing it in May and June, follow up on that book. But yeah, it's something I had to rehash and get my notes ready for that book. So because there's so much research in that book with the angels and supernatural, and there's so many biblical verses and things you don't want to get or make a mistake on. The world is going crazy. My guest today, she's got some lifestyle coaching and some health coaching that she'll probably be talking about, and she's been doing this for a long time. It looks like that I've known her for some time. She's been on, we've talked together on shows in the past, and she's a great guest, great person. But this world does need some changing and some spiritual help. I was going through a drive-through, just to make this quick. I was going through a drive-through, a couple of them, matter of fact, in the past few days, and they I don't know what they're doing. They're on drugs or on alcohol or whatever, but they can't hear you. You can mention your order 5, 6, 7 times and clear. I mean, I'm pretty clear because I practice talking clear. I try to be. But when I talked to a couple of them just the other day, they get your order wrong. It seems like they don't care. Are they doing on purpose? Everybody is, or is just everybody just mean and angry about what's going on? I can't blame them for that. The world is all in chaos, but we're going to try to, I guess, smooth that out today with my guest. My guest is Karen Holton, and we're going to be talking, I guess, for about an hour, and we're going to be talking about ET experiencer. That's what she's been through, ET experiencing, just like me. Exo political ambassador, lifestyle coach channel, and shamanic guide. Her professional experience includes shamanic guidance, awakening and ascension counseling, as well as public discourses. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, and I'm familiar with that program, great program, Karen hosts the Quantum Guide Show. This weekly podcast is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who are awake, but may be socially isolated by their alternative beliefs. That's what I was just talking about. Social isolation is causing a lot of people just to kind of drop everything they're doing and doing it the way they don't know how. She also hosts the Aliens and Astrology podcast with co-host Dave Petrella. Karen believes that self-love and self-care build the foundation for personal activism, awakening, and ascension as we become the change. And we are going through a change process right now. I can feel it, Karen. I know you probably way ahead of me on that. We wish to see in the world this change come about, but we want it to be spiritual and benevolent. Karen spent over a decade researching and educating the public about the nefarious global agenda here on Earth. Soon after, she received a spiritual download. As a result, Karen created the Quantum Health Transformation Program to assist others to heal, evolve, and thrive. And God, we need that today, Karen. This free comprehensive online course is available from her website. It's Karen Holton, healthcoach.com, and it's also youtube.com/at Karen Holton TV. More recently, Karen has created products and services to assist those, and I've seen some of those products. They're very pretty, the crystals and all this, the jewelry and stuff, great stuff. Karen has created products and services to assist those who are waking up during these critical times, which are available from her website. Check out Karen's unique content on her website, Rumble, Odyssey channels at KarenHolton.tv. Okay, Karen Holton, my guest today, great lady from Canada. Might add. And I'm from Illinois here. And we don't get into cities or addresses on the show. So, in case somebody takes an attitude, but on the Dave Emmons show, we try to take care of our guests and do the right thing for them. Karen Holton, Greetings to you. And is there anything you want to add real quick in the intro?
Oh, I don't know, Dave. You were pretty thorough. I guess I would just categorize what I do
Okay.
as being there for people who don't fit into mainstream. So if someone's having what I would call a spiritual emergency, they've had a paranormal experience, or they're starting to go down the rabbit holes, and it's scary, especially at first. It's scary because you get deeper and deeper as you go through time. But they need somebody there who understands them and will validate their experience. So whether it's they've seen a ghost, or whether it's they've had ET contact, positive or negative, whatever, it doesn't matter. If it's outside of the box, I'm here to offer support. And so that's sort of what I do. I do have a degree in social work and also in gender studies. No, I'm not woke, but I do understand where they're coming from. So I'm also available for that whole portion of society, who may need support as well. But I'm really pleased to be here, Dave. I love your show. It's
Yeah.
it's very cool. It's very informative. I've never been disappointed with an episode, and I'm thrilled that you're branching off into public radio. And it's just indeed a real pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. And Karen, I've always in the past liked what we talked about in the past. And you are right. We have to look at both sides. The I guess you call the conservative side and the woke side, and we have to allow everybody to have their right to speak and to do the things they want to, as long as it's legal. I know that we've had differences, but those differences should be talked out, not fought in the streets. I mean, that's crazy. And from some of the people, like I said, I met earlier in my opening, is that I've met some people that they just don't seem to be there. They seem like
Mhm.
they're losing their ideas, their goals, their principles of why they're here, and it's because of the chaos in the world. And I think we're going to be talking about, and the thing I wanted to talk about, I guess we got some things I want to get with you on. And I'm actually excited about your ET experiences. I haven't heard those yet, so those are coming up. But I want to talk about first your spiritual healings and paranormal life. Could you tell us about your spiritual healings and paranormal life, Karen Holton?
Sure. Sure, Dave. Now, I just want to go back to something that you just said. What I believe is a major problem on planet Earth today is the lack of spirituality. There's
Right.
plenty of religion, plenty of dogma, plenty of ways of doing it, but the true spiritual, which comes from the heart and connects us with the powers that are greater than us, is what's missing. And people are losing hope, and they're not getting fed spiritually. And I think that's what your show and my shows and what we do is all about, Dave.
Right.
So getting back to my paranormal life, I'm a very odd person. I'm extremely sensitive physically, mentally, spiritually. I can't stand tags on my clothes. I can't wear certain fabrics. I can't be around a lot of noise. I certainly can't be around groups of people. I've been extremely sensitive all my life, and it caused me a lot of hardship. But what it also gave me was a completely different perspective that is valid and also valuable. So when I was a young child, I had experiences with lucid dreaming. I had experiences with remote viewing. I had all kinds of, and I could pick up the sensations of beings that nobody else could see or hear. And of course, I kept being told by my parents, because it was an embarrassment to them, that I shouldn't be talking like that. People are going to think I'm crazy, um, and that kind of thing. But I knew those things were real, but I didn't have any mentorship. I didn't have anybody to turn to help me develop my gifts or even understand that I had gifts. I just thought there was something really wrong with me. So I thought I better get right with God. And so I truly believe, maybe a little different version than some people on what God is, but I think God is eternity and infinity. So that means we're swimming in God all the time.
Right.
And so there's no secrets from God. And so I knew that I better get right with God. And so I started going to all the churches, and I would go to all kinds of churches. Over the years, I did everything from Baptist to Jehovah Witnesses, trying to find out, what was going on. And I wanted to be a good person. Being misjudged by other people is okay, because it's not that they're not important, but they're kind of not as important as my spiritual realm. And so that's what sustained me throughout my life. And I don't think that I'm special or I have any kind of special gift. I think the experiences I've had, everybody could have. So although I did have some experiences, I'll just tell you a couple examples so you get a framework. When I was a young child, very young, like maybe 3 years old, sitting on the toilet, there was the tiles formed a checkerboard, black and white pattern on the floor. And I was just sitting there and just sort of daydreaming. And all of a sudden I noticed that one edge of the floor was moving, just slightly kind of undulating. And I went, oh, is that ever interesting? As soon as I focused my attention on it, I realized the more I focused on it, the more it moved. And pretty soon the floor was actually rolling the way waves roll on the ocean. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I'd never seen that before. And then I just kind of came back and it stopped. And I just, of course, told my mom, and she told me, don't be telling people because you're nuts. I also used to know information that was impossible for me to know. So when I was about 3 years old, my grandmother came to stay with us, and we all had to sleep in one bed. My mom at that point was separated from my dad. So there was my mom and my two brothers and I and my grandma all in one big bed. And grandma snored like crazy and nobody got any sleep. And the next morning, my mom is kind of complaining to my grandma, going, none of us got any sleep last night because of your snoring. And I piped up and I said, Grandma, you need a new muffler. Now, the concept of mechanics or even of the parts of a car were far beyond me. I was like a 3-year-old little child. It freaked my mom out. I got to tell you, my paranormal experiences and perceptions scared my mom, and it actually put a bit of a wedge between our closeness, because there was something about me that she was beyond her realm of reality, and it kind of freaked her out a bit, which is interesting because her mother had all kinds of ET and paranormal experience. And I believe I get this from this intergenerational contact. Anyway, I'll just stop there in case you got some questions, Dave.
It travels in the family, and I have the same thing. And I've heard a lot of people that I've talked about, they have the same thing. Their mother, father, or grandparents were involved in ET or paranormal things. Now we're speaking about spiritual healings. I wanted to talk to you about, I know you said you're sensitive and you feel everything, and you take in everything. Now, an empath, I don't think it's really, to me, I'm kind of an empath myself, and throughout my ET experiences, I think I gained some of that power and that knowledge. But I have friends around me, and they say as you get older, you watch the obituaries more. And I've known quite a few people in the last 3 years who passed away. I know some friends that are sick, cancer, and I pray for them all the time. God bless them. But I feel kind of sick myself when I think about all this stuff, and it gets to my stomach, and it's kind of like, am I taking in too much? Is that empathic skills? Is it an overload, Karen?
It might be, Dave. It might be, because each one of us is like a little packet, and we go as far as we can to understand other people. But the truth of the matter is, our interpretation of what's going on is unique and valid. And so we've been raised in a reality where we sometimes feel we have to go to experts to get their advice. But the truth in my world is that it's all inside. And as soon as we accept that and open up to it, certainly not in an egotistical way, in a very humble way, the way a child, if it went up to its father and it asked for something it needed or didn't understand. You know, I find that dealing with what I will call Holy Spirit, it can also be called prana or chi. It can be called all kinds of things, grace, and even 0 point and Planck level and quantum mechanics. Like, this force is well identified and we're swimming in it all the time. But the last thing we think of is to ask for it. I'm not saying you're not asking for it, Dave. Prayer is super powerful, praying for ourselves, praying for other people. But I want to tell you about the 2 experiences I had with cancer symptoms, if that's okay.
Okay, go right ahead. I want to hear, because we need some uplifting. And you like we said, the public is really down right now. Most people are, and they're just going from
Yeah.
day to day. I feel it. I feel the external pressures. And then when you have internal pressures, your friends and family are sick, you're fighting 2 battle fronts. And we don't need the world to be like it is today. And what we won't get into that too much. We talked about that pre-show, but go ahead, Karen. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all relevant. So what happened to me is I had been under an extreme, I had a lot of challenges in my life, but one of the big challenges I had was I had a very badly botched surgery. My body became completely toxified, and they used experimental drugs on me to treat me to save my life, but it caused me all kinds of other problems. And I had all kinds of stresses. And next thing I know, I developed these lumps under my arm and in my breast. And I go see a doctor, and the doctor sends me for tests. I go see the doctor again. The doctor says, Karen, we've got to get you right away to see a surgeon. There's a long wait list, so we got to get you right away on the wait list for chemotherapy and radiation. I said, stop. And she said, what? I said, you're scaring the hell out of me. What are we talking about here? Maybe my glands are just sick. Give me a chance to heal them. Oh, no, we're way past that, Karen. We got to get you involved right away.
Wow.
And I was shook up, and I left the office, and I went for a walk, and I never went back. Instead, what I did is I said to infinity, eternity, universal consciousness, whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
because I think it adapts to whatever our belief system is. We don't have to change anything. It's here, it's now, it's right here. We just got to ask for it to feel, come into our lives and show us miracles and show us proof.
Right.
So I spoke to this force and I said, you know what? Whether I live or die, whether I have cancer or not, is between you and me. It's got nothing to do with that doctor. And so I said, okay, I'll make you a deal. How about if I just floated out there that I have cancer and I don't have cancer, like Schrodinger's cat? We don't know. So show me what to do and I'll do it. And let's see what we can do, you and me, not including the doctors. Now, I don't expect anyone to be this radical. I'm just telling you my truth, what happened for me. Next thing you know, I had the urge to go for long walks. It was really hard. My legs were aching, but I kept going for these long walks. And then I would go into the health food store and there'd be a particular herb or something that I would just find it attractive and buy it and take it and use it. Of course, I would always make sure that it was something that was, wasn't going to hurt me in any way. But more than that, I had to resist the urge to fall into drama. Because in Canada, if you've got cancer, you're like a celebrity. Everybody's nice to you and they give you money and they give you rides and you get all this government support and everything. And I in the beginning, I went, no, I can't do that. I know I can't do that. I know I can't do that. And I went, damn, I kind of would love to have that kind of attention. I went, no, it's not good for my healing. So instead, I didn't tell anyone. I pretended I was perfectly well. That was the toughest part of the whole job. And I'm going to make a long story short. 3 months later, I kept the appointment to see the surgeon. And he said, Karen, there's nothing to cut. There's nothing to treat. You're a perfectly well woman. 3 months.
That's
now.
Yeah. I've heard people go through that also, the other people that I've heard of. And I might have went through it myself a few times and prayed and went through a spiritual changing. And I think I might have healed myself. We can do that a lot of times, just like you said. Now, you heal yourself, but you also do spiritual healings for other people. Karen, could you tell us what you do? Is it something just like what you just said, how you heal yourself? You tell other people to do the same process?
Yes, I not only, first of all, I have a program that I downloaded from my ET and spiritual guides. It's called the Quantum Health Transformation Program, and it's absolutely free.
Mhm.
It's 9 comprehensive steps that cover every aspect of our everyday lives. It covers, it helps you to open your mind so that you can understand more detailed and complex concepts, because we've been fed that we live in a binary system with good and bad and black and white and up and down and male and female. Well, it's not actually like that. It's just that we're constrained into thinking that it's that way, and that's what we see. But it also involves a huge amount of detoxification, Dave, physical, emotional, what we eat, and then detoxifying from the actual construct. And then the last 3 steps are for your own spiritual evolution, where I teach people how to formulate and basically engineer their own spiritual reality based on what they believe and what they're comfortable with. Because there's no one way to put this in a box and say, if you don't do it this way, you're not going to make it. That's not true in my experience. And this is all from my experience, Dave.
Right.
Okay, so there's that program. There's also
Can I ask you about your detoxification program?
yes.
Detoxification means, I guess, have a positive mind, get into the spiritual realm, and then pray and become, more of you on the inside. But is detoxification also what you eat? And are there any medications or herbs that you're talking about that people take? Do you recommend these types of things?
Well, I actually, Dave, teach people how to find their own inner guru, how to find their natural healer and their connection within, so that they know what to do. Again, it's moving from that external expert to an internal confidence and connection that we can have with spirit. So yes, I do teach people how to heal. I want to say something about detoxification. So in step 6, there is physical external detoxification, where we find out all the chemicals that are killing us and making us sick and making us line up for the doctor, that's in our shampoos and in our soaps and in our cleaning products, or even the fabrics we're wearing.
Mhm.
The next part of that is internal detoxification, where we learn what is real food and what isn't, and what are spiritual ways of eating. And there's no one right way and no one wrong way. You can be a vegan or a carnivore, you can be a raw vegan, you can be a paleo, you can do keto. It doesn't matter how you do it, but there is a technique that will ensure that you're getting the nutrition you need, you're getting off the chemicals, but then it also includes a daily detox routine that helps people to detoxify from those chemicals, to get them out of the body. Things like blue-green algae and chia seeds and all these natural ways to detoxify the body. And then I even teach how to detoxify emotionally, because we have to detoxify emotionally. Oh my God, we're like the screaming man going like
Yes,
this
yes, we are now.
because of everything and all the stimulation, right? And then I teach you how to make all your emotions work for you, even the ones we think might be bad. And feeling your feelings is never going to hold you back spiritually. Never going to do that. Don't let people tell you, oh, you got to be all in the light and love all the time, or you're not going to have the frequency. BS.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to
Yeah.
swear.
Could you tell us, just mention a few foods? You mentioned chia seeds or whatever. Could you mention a few other foods to give us a direction in what your thoughts are in the healthy foods that we need to take in, Karen?
Well, the first thing we need to do is, well, this is a huge topic, Dave. We could do a whole show on
I
it, and I'd
know,
love
I
to
know.
come back if you ever want me to.
Sure. Just
But
name a few to give us an idea.
I will. The number one healing thing that we can do is to find out and stick to real food, food that our ancestors even 100 years ago were eating. Culture and background. I'll give you an example. If you're someone who's Inuit and you live in northern Canada, you live mostly off of blubber and meat. That is your heritage. That's what your body's used to, and it's been part of your diet for thousands of years. If you go to the tropics, people are eating a lot of tropical tropical fruit, very high fructose diet. but that's what they've been thriving on for thousands of years. And so we need to look at our heritage and what were our ancestors eating. My ancestors were eating a lot of cabbage and sausages and spiced meats that would keep. That's what my ancestors ate. I'm a type O blood type. You might want to consider your blood type.
Mm-hmm.
And but you go to real food. Real food will never hurt you. Now, it's tough to find real food, Dave. You go into the supermarket and there's row after row of dead, lifeless, toxic stuff that overstimulates us, and we think it's delicious. And then when someone gives us a salad, we don't even have the enzymes in our saliva to digest it, so it doesn't taste good, because we've been so overstimulated by the chemicals that are in fake food. So just learning what is real food and eating it. So the kind of food maybe your grandma used to cook for you, that might be healing food for you. It's really important to eat real food and to find out what's real and what's not. And so the Quantum Health Transformation is absolutely a free program, Dave. I don't charge anything for it. I don't even know who's using it and who's not. And it's not copyrighted. So people can share it with other people. They can incorporate it into their own programs if they're teachers or leaders or guiders in any way. And this is basically all stems from my ET experience, because it was so amazing to see how other beings do life, and then to get the download, and then to bring it back, and then to actually use the program to restore my own health, because where I was at before, after all that medical and psychological intervention, you don't even know the half of it. You wouldn't believe me if I told you it's that bad. I'm
Now,
not going to tell anybody, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I was able to resurrect myself to this where I'm at today using that very same program.
Right. Now you mentioned quantum health. Does that have a lot to do with quantum theory, mathematics, and everything else that's in?
Yeah, it does. The whole first step, you start with step 9 and you work your way up to step 1. Step 9 is your basic foundation. You learn how to use a nubby ball. So you know, Dave, how we're taught things are good or bad, they're black or white.
Right.
No, they're not. It's everything is a nubby ball. So if you take a ball like this and you think, oh, the very north node pole is good and the very south pole is bad, what about everything in between? What about all the shades of gray? What about all the color spectrum and all the hues within that?
Mm-hmm.
This is what reality looks like. And so I teach people how to use this tool, which is actually quantum holography. It's all in my program. And you use it to start looking at the world very complex, and that everybody has a place. And so, Dave, you're looking from your vantage point here, and Karen's looking for her vantage point here. What that means is you're not wrong, and neither am I. Yeah. Because we're both validating a reality. And together, this is how we form the new timeline. This is how we change reality, by seeing things differently. And then we have our own creative spirit that comes out, makes it manifest.
Right. I look at each one of us where we're different, but we have different paths, and we may take different paths, but the thing of it is we're all heading the same direction. I always say, and with my ET involvement, and that's, what I've been writing about and researching about, but I get into spirituality, and I'm getting into the things that you're talking about. It's putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Some people may know some of what you're talking about, but then when they do talk to you, you can fill in those gaps for them. And then they'll have a aha moment. They'll say, wow, that's just exactly what I needed, or I needed to hear that. And it's just like with ETs. When I find somebody that's been abducted and they're a contactee, they're saying things that I went through with also. And that's a piece of the puzzle. We're all looking for that, those empty parts of our puzzle that we just keep hunting for, and we're using all kinds of theories and things. But I think you have to take a little bit by everything that you go into, like your teachings. I'm sure you're going to fill in parts of the puzzle for some people who need that. Now, I guess I want to go into, we got into quantum health. Okay, methods for changing reality, timelines, and manifestations, and time travel. Could you talk about all those things?
Okay, okay, but
that's
Dave,
open
Dave,
up a bunch of other things.
I don't know if these all fit into those categories or not, because I don't really know. I don't have a method of analysis. So it might be time travel and it might not. So let me share one of my experiences, and that is, and I teach this on how to do corrupted memories. So what happens is, and I learned this, I have a degree. I went to university. I took a lot of psychology, a lot of sociology. Oh man, I had great fun. I didn't take a specialization, so I'm a generalist. And I took all the cool stuff that I wanted
Yeah.
to learn about, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And very eclectic, and it's really serving me today. So, oh gosh, Dave, I just forgot your question. Can you tell
Oh,
me again? I'm sorry.
we're talking about changing reality, timelines,
Oh,
manifestation, and time travel. We were just on travel.
this this is the coolest experience of my life. I think I've had a lot of really cool experiences, but I got to say, this is the coolest, Dave. Okay. So, a lot of us grew up in very dysfunctional families. We were neglected, we were over punished, and we had all kinds of issues with addictions with our parents. And it's just how it is. I'm not saying, oh, feel sorry for me, I didn't have a good childhood. I'm saying me and how many billion other people didn't have good childhoods, right?
Right.
So I learned in psychology that every time we take out a memory, we're corrupting it slightly. We're either embellishing it, or maybe we're adding more emotion to it, or something like that. And then we put it away. And the next time we bring it up, we now get the corrupted version that we then have bad feelings attached to, and we have, guessing at the intentions of other people, whatever, right? And so this thing becomes like this big rat's nest, and we put it away. Energetically, it also has a counterpart, which is why we want to deal with those. But so with me, I had a lot of suffering I was causing myself because of my memories of my childhood. My mother didn't view me as very important, and didn't give me eye contact, and wasn't there for me. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite. So I was inspired to do this. I'm sure I was inspired to do this, because where else would I get this idea from? I thought, what I'm going to do is take out a memory and I'm going to corrupt it positively, so that it makes me happy, instead of bringing out this rat's nest and feeling all those negative emotions and thinking those negative thoughts. I would bring out the memory and then start embellishing it in a positive way. So what I did was I created a false memory and planted it in my mind. The false memory was that every day after school, I came home. My mom was super glad to see me, and she'd make tea, and we'd sit and have a little tea party after school, and she'd hear about my day. And if I'd had a bad day, I come home. This took me weeks to construct this false memory, Dave. I worked on it like every day. I just loved it. Once I got into it, I just loved it. And if I came home after school and I'd had a bad day, my mom would get out the good china and she'd bring out some special cookies, and it just made me, wrap me in this warm glow. And I just made that memory my own, and I planted it, and it's mine, and I'm believing it. Hey, this is going to make me cry, Dave.
Okay.
6 months later, I go to visit my mom, and we're just having a visit. And she abruptly turned to me. Like, I never told her, I never told anyone. That's another secret of doing magic, is you don't tell anybody. It's got to be your own, and you make it your own, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there and she's talking to me, and suddenly she turns to me and she says, Karen, it's going to make me cry. She says, Karen,
Okay.
do you remember the tea parties we had after school? Now, Dave, I never told anyone. I know it never happened. How did my mom remember the past that we did my corrupted memory? And that's why I'm saying, I don't know if it's changing timelines. I don't know if that's time travel. I don't know what it is. It's freaky, it's weird, but it works. And I teach people how to do that too.
Yeah, it's a time lapse, more or less, instead of
Don't
time.
know.
Yeah, it's all time travel. We really don't know. We could be time traveling back and forth in our consciousness, our subconscious, and everything. But we're looking at changing our reality. How do we do that, Karen? I mean, right now, a lot of people would like to change the reality of things, their own personal lives and the people around them, and also the world. How can we do that? How can we change our own reality?
It's actually a lot easier than you think, Dave. We should do a show one day because it'll take about an hour where I run through my 4 tried and true methods for changing timelines.
Okay.
But I think the first thing is kind of similar to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. We have to admit there's a problem. We have to admit that there's a problem. It's bigger than us. It's beyond our control. And we need to get a certain amount of humility that we're open to something. The second thing I think that everybody needs to do is to get right with their concept of God. You know what I mean? Get connected to the field, get familiar that there are forces out there that want to help us, but we have free will, so we have to ask for help. And I encourage people to ask for proof, because proof, there's nothing wrong with asking for proof. It's not disrespectful. It helps to build your faith. And the more you build your faith, the more you can turn to other sources. Then we go to internal sources where we wait with a feeling of expectation and excitement that the change is coming, the thing we want, the thing we need, the thing we've asked for is coming. And the other thing too, Dave, is that they now have well recognized that the observer affects the quantum field. How we view things affect our quantum field. So you may be sick and you may not have a cure and you may not feel very positive, but you can be open to the idea of healing. And I encourage people, once they start this process, to look for what we call just noticeable differences, because that will put emphasis and energy into the process. So we start to see more differences, and those add up as synchronicities and coincidences, and it gets exciting. This is the most exciting reality game we could possibly be playing. And so what happens is we start to affect the quantum field. So I know, like in the beginning, I was in pain and suffering 24/7, to the point where I couldn't tolerate life. But then I had minutes of feeling better. And I knew if I could have minutes of feeling better, I could have hours of feeling better. And if I could have hours of feeling better, I could have days of feeling better. And if I could have days of feeling better, I can have weeks. So I was open to all of that.
Right.
Another thing I do that's kind of quirky is I take all the love and blessings from anybody. Anyone who wants to pray for me or send me blessings, I'm open to it. I don't care what the religion, creed,
Yeah,
anything like
that's
that.
very important. You mentioned that you've been to a lot of churches. So have I, in my quest to find my pieces of the puzzle so I can put myself together. But I found out that churches weren't my thing. I ran into a lot of spiritual people that were spiritualists. They prayed and they meditated, and I found that's probably closer to what I want to see and do, because we have the creator. The creator is this big ball of energy, white energy, somewhere in between all these 11 universes that they claimed they found so far. And that bright light is where we go back to. And like Jesus Christ, I wrote this book on angels. So I've done a little research on that. And Jesus Christ was here to tell us that we are part of God ourselves. We are God within. And the agnostics wanted to push that a little stronger, and maybe they should have, but then they started changing things around. But Jesus was here to teach us. He was light. He was a light being, and he ascended. So he was trying to tell us that we have a life after this, and let's try to live this life the best we can, but in a spiritual sense. And love and peace is the big thing in our lives that we have to help others, and like you said, you accept love and peace from everybody, and I think that's great. Leave yourself open to other people, but also return that love and peace through prayers, through thoughts, and through kind gestures. It's not just words. A lot of times it's just being with that person when they need somebody, and you can actually be quiet around that person and fill in their anguish. Karen, I guess we get into we I don't want to knock religion. I'm not knocking it, because a lot of people they that's their path. That's what they want to do to get closer to their spirit. Now I want to go into some of the more juicier things that I look at. The angel experience in 1995. Could you tell us about that, Karen?
Yeah, it's a weird experience, and I just want people to know that I don't expect anyone to believe me. That's not what this is about. I'm hoping to inspire people to be open to other experiences and their own experiences. So basically, Dave, I would, whoops, sorry, banged my microphone. I was at a very, very bad point in my life, very, very bad. I had just finished leaving the Jehovah Witnesses, and they're a shunning organization. So I lost 17 years of community, friendships, family members, lost everything. I wasn't coping too well, and my former husband talked me into letting our two children, who had previously resided with me, to go and live with him. And that huge void, all of a sudden, and missing them so terribly, was really done me in. And I was to the point where, and then I had a roommate that basically robbed me, and it just,
Oh,
shit hit the
yeah,
fan. And
yeah,
pardon my language.
that's okay.
And what I didn't know, this is interesting. What I didn't know at the time, I didn't find out for till 2 years later, is that the man who lived in the house before me had committed suicide in a very specific way. And I'm very energy sensitive. And I think because my frequency got so low, because I was grieving so deeply, that I somehow connected with his energy, because I started formulating a plan to off myself in the very same way. 2 years later, I met a woman. She asked me where I lived. I told her. She said to me, "Oh my God, do you know what happened in that house?" I said, "No." And she told me she knew the mother of this guy who had offed himself. And that's, I didn't know that before, but I went, wow. Anyway, so I was like preparing to off myself. And all of a sudden, my reality changed, just changed. I don't know how, don't know at all. But I saw all these points of light, and there was light streaming out the sides, and it gave them the illusion of wings. And the reason I think it's an angel and not angels, because I don't think there is necessarily that um, that you can actually differentiate in other realms, because it's not like here in the 3D realm.
Mm-hmm.
But a voice spoke to me, and it sounded like 1,000 voices speaking in perfect harmony as one voice. And it said, "Karen, what are you planning? What are you doing?" And I said, "I don't want to be here anymore." I said, "If life is nothing but suffering and mistakes and abuse, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. I feel ripped off. I feel like I never had a chance, because all I've done is damage control all my life. When do I get a chance to, live and be happy and do things I want to do? If I'm not going to have that, I don't want to live anymore." And they, or it, said to me, you can go if you want to. There's exit points, because this process was never meant to be so terribly horrible and suffering. So you can go if you want to, but if you want to stay, we're here with you. We want you to know that you can have a helper. And I said, "Well, I don't really want to go, because I was 41 years old." I said, like I said, I want a chance at a real life. I want to find the real me, you know. And they said, "Okay, you want to stick around? We're here for you, and we'll give you a gift, but you have to decide what that gift is." So after that, then it just all went away, and I've never had anything like that happen since. But a couple days later, I was out walking, because I've been pondering this really seriously. I mean, who sees angels, and who gets offered gifts from angels? Like, wow, this was huge. So I was walking along, and I thought, what do I want? I thought, well, if I had money, I could do all the things I want to do. I went, no, 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 it doesn't feel right. I went, if I had beauty and fame, a lot of people would be there for me. I'd have everything I ever wanted. I went, no, no, that's not it either. I couldn't find. Then I realized what I needed. I needed wisdom, and I asked for wisdom. And this is the weirdest part of this, because I think, Dave, I'm interpreting my experience through my human brain and my own experiences. You know what I mean? I'm not making any of this up, but at the same time, someone else may observe what I went through and see it very differently, is what I'm saying. I'm doing the best I can, with words and English in my own brain. But they said to me, "Do you want the quick way or the long way?" And I went, "Oh, I want the quick way." I thought, "I want the quick way." And they said, "Okay." And that was the end of that. Now, after that, I not only didn't want to kill myself, but my life started progressing very quickly, and I started recovering from stuff really quickly. And I ended up getting into a 2-year, basically all my education. I ended up getting into all of that, and then I ended up getting really good grades and getting scholarship, and everything just zoomed. But it wasn't. I thought they were going to pour the wisdom into me. That's not what happened. What happened is they allowed me, when my life then after that went on a very, very sour note, they allowed me to learn from every exquisite experience, call it good, bad, or ugly, that I was able to glean, and I was able to experiment within this field of all these terrible things also happening, so that I could really, really get a handle on how magical reality is, on how much help there is, and what we're capable of. And when I created the podcast, it was actually because I had a brain injury and I couldn't seem to formulate my thoughts. I couldn't make sense. And I just started doing podcasts. They were terrible in the beginning. I'm not saying they're great now, but that's why I started doing it, because it helped me to heal. It helped me to meet other people. It helped me in so many ways. I'm getting off on a tangent. I'll just stop there.
I learned quite a bit too by doing podcasts and talking to people just like yourself. Now, speaking of angels, now this angel, you said you saw something like wings, and was this in a conscious state, or did you see this subconsciously in a dream?
Okay, I just want to make it really clear that all of my ET experiences, all my ET experiences and my whole angel experience was done while I was, oh, that's not right either. I was going to say, well, I'm fully conscious, but I wasn't using anything. I wasn't on any drugs. I wasn't smoking weed. I wasn't dropping acid. I wasn't on a psilocybin, nothing. So I was clear when I had these experiences. Now, the ET experiences happened at night while I was sleeping, but for some reason, I've been given recall. Well, I know why. I've been given a lot of recall. Most people don't have the kind of recall I have. But the angel experience, I was awake. I wasn't on anything. It was visible. It was auditory. It was a physical body sensation. And I was fully conscious when it happened. It wasn't a dream.
Right. In my research in my book, I ran across a lot of things about biblical and also about scientific studies with angels. Angels can come from a far distance through all the dimensions, and travel and time is nothing to them. They come to us. They actually monitor us. They go by what we have in our minds. Our concept of what an angel is, they actually change into that concept. Like a lot of people think, okay, an angel has wings. An angel, from what I research, they don't have wings. They're not really, they don't come to you in wings, except if you want them to come that way. They read you and what you want, or what your expectations of an angel is. They come to you in that manner. I've had a couple of things back in 72. I saw, maybe I can ask you this question, who this lady in white is. 3:00 in the morning. It was about 72. It was right after I come back from the war and all this stuff. And I was sleeping. It was about 3:00, the bewitching hour. I woke up, something woke me up. I looked at the foot of my bed, and there was standing about a 5'7", 5'8", looked like a woman, all in white. I mean, there was a white robe, white. She had a white covering on her face and head. She turned and walked, and she kind of just disappeared. And I was staying at my mom and dad's house at that time because I just got back from the military. And I went and asked my mom, says, there's an angel or something in white to come into your room. Did you see it? She goes, no. What did you see? I said, I saw a lady in white. And it woke me up, and I watched it walk away from me and walk into your room. And then in 98, that occurrence happened after I come back from combat. Now, the other occurrence happened, I saw this lady in white after my divorce. And of course, the divorce is traumatic and everything. So I saw this lady in white at the foot of my bed again, and I woke up again around between 3 and 3:30. I saw this lady in white standing there looking at me, and I felt like she was telling me something, and I didn't gather everything until later. And I saw her walk into my bathroom, and I jumped out of bed, followed her into the bathroom, and she was gone. So what is the lady in white, Karen?
Dave, I honestly don't know, but I do get impressions from hearing you talk. And so I believe it is definitely one of your spirit guides.
Mhm.
And she shows up with a message. Now, you may not understand that message, or you may understand it later, or something might trigger, and then you suddenly get it. There's so many ways that this could play out, but generally, there is help when we're in our hour of need. When we've had traumatic experiences or huge disappointments or emotional thing, that is when the help is closest.
Yes.
Funny thing is, I feel at my worst when I'm my most creative. When I feel great, I'm not that creative. I'm out doing stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know for sure. I don't know if it was a ghost specter. I don't know if it was one of your ancestors. I kind of think might be. I don't know, but I'm not picking up anything negative from that experience. And you're right, Dave. There is no time and space outside of the 3D. This
Right.
is why prayers are so fast. Healing can be instant.
Mhm.
Beings can travel so fast. You're right.
Right. And I know myself. I've talked to some family members, and there's one real quick story I tell about my sister, and it's in my book. She was in the hospital, had triple bypass, and it was about 2 hours or 3 hours before surgery, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and she was laying in bed. She couldn't sleep because she was a little nervous. Well, she didn't see the light of the huge door to her room. Usually it floods light in because there's a nurse's station right across the hallway and there's a lot of light out there. And she said every time somebody comes in, the room lights up because the door has the light. She said she didn't see any light come in. She saw this lady, about 5'4", a little chubby, had a box cut hair, and she was in civilian clothes, kind of like a purple pants and top, it's similar colors. She said maroon, whatever. And she said this lady stood there by her bed, and she says, "Are you all right?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'm okay." And she said, you will be fine." She said, "Everything will go fine and you will be fine." She turns and walks away. And my sister said she didn't see her open the door. She just disappeared and she was gone. And I thought to myself, well, that was a human angel that comes. Then she asked the
Mhm.
nurses in the morning, and did you know they put her through an acuity test to find out if she's okay mentally? And my sister passed it, and they said, we don't know who that was. They shouldn't have been in there in civilian clothes. It wasn't any of our staff. So boom, that was weird. So that happens to a lot of people. They come to you in a human form because that's how people want to see them. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Let's cover the last issue, in which is probably like in my wheelhouse, your ET experiences in 2012 and your upcoming book. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Karen?
Yes. I'm in an awkward position right now because we've just had, the whole Corey Good disclosure, which has rocked the whole, ET UFO community. A lot of people's stories were based on his story. And then there's a lot of, other more legitimate, like Travis Walton and, different people. Did I say his name right? Travis
Yes,
Walton.
Travis Walton, right?
Yeah. And so my experience, as far as I know, isn't like anybody else's. And I can't explain the inconsistencies. So again, I don't expect people to believe me. I'm just stating to the best of my ability how I experienced it. So what happened was I started waking up in the morning and I thought I was dreaming. At first, I thought I was having these incredible dreams. But when it happened night after night after night for 3 months, I knew I wasn't dreaming. And some of the things I remembered and some of the things I didn't. And I really believe that the reason I have my memories is because I would bring the message to the world. So we already talked a bit about the quantum health transformation. Well,
Mhm.
that was sort of my gift, and it took me 2 years and $10,000 to get that out for the public. So that's how strongly I believe in my experience, Dave.
Right.
So I was gone for a 3 month period every night, I believe, while I slept, because I'd go to bed and in the morning I'd wake up and I'd be in bed. So I'm just assuming. I never had a spaceship come pick me up or anything like that. Nothing like that. And it also was very different than dreams because it went through a very orderly process. Now, the time that I was away, there was definitely a time dilation because it was like being gone for 3.5 years, but in installments over a 3-month period. So I had a lot of experiences, and it started with an orientation. Uh, and I just want to say right off from the top, these beings are very much like us. I was never afraid. I was never put through a bad experience. In fact, quite the opposite. So
Myself.
I was assigned a buddy during orientation. And when they choose a buddy, they choose someone who looks as much like us as possible, just to, help us to feel comfortable. That buddy stays with us until we're comfortable enough to be on our own. They'll literally sleep next to you if that's what you need to adjust to the whole environment. And I also believe that I have a copy of me that's there because all my experiences, well, almost all of my, except for the exopolitical work, all my experiences are very physical, eating, sleeping. So the first night I was on the big ship, I was crying because I thought, what about my kitty? Who's going to feed my cat? And aren't people going to miss me? And she assured me, not in words, they don't speak words, they use telepathy. It's a combination of images, spontaneous knowing, body sensation. It's like learning how to play a musical instrument to learn how to communicate with these beings. But she assured me that I would be waking up in my own little bed in the morning and I didn't have anything to worry about. It was so beautiful. So anyway, this progressed. And the other thing I want to tell people is I don't represent them in any way. I'm not their grand poobah. I'm not their spokesperson. I'm just speaking from my own experiences and from my own perceptual arena. And these beings are not that far ahead of us. They're like our very next stage. And so I got to see how society works at the next stage of evolution. And then I bring that back and I teach how to be different on planet Earth to help establish the new positive timeline. I believe that's how it all works.
Let me interject on that from some of the things that I found out through contactees and myself. There's 3 forms of abductions, and I got that in my first book. First form is a bedside. I had a bedside visit with a little gray, and what they do is they knock you out, and your partner is knocked out too. They don't know anything. And what they take blood samples, and for men, they take semen samples, and they take readings, your frequency readings on your memories. They upload them, they take that with them. Now, that's a bedside thing. Sometimes they stick an implant in you. Second way of doing it is that they take you actually on board ship. You're teleported up. And women more than likely would be teleported up to the ship because their eggs and fertilization is a little bit more complex than what a man's is. So they might go up into the ship. Third way is just like I think what might have happened to you. They take your soul, your essence, your energy, and they take that with them through the parallel dimensions, and they take you to another dimension where you see these humanoid beings, and there are a lot of humanoid beings. And of course, Dr. David Jacobs says half of the people that's been abducted, they don't know they've been abducted. They might have a dream and they say, wow, that was a crazy dream. Scratch their head, go ahead and drink their coffee, and they're gone. But that's the way it is. Is there anything in closing that you want to tell us about what you're doing right now, Karen?
Yes, I've got a new show in the wings that I'm working on, and it's actually going to be more ET centered. It's called Aliens and Angels. And so I'm planning that right now. I'm planning a bit of I don't know, a conference, I think, in the summertime. I'm working on my book. So the book is what we didn't talk about that maybe I could come back one day and talk about is the intergalactic resettlement program, the training program all around that, how the big ship works, what the people are like, what's their culture, what's their background, who are they, how do they communicate, so much stuff. So it's going to be in my book, and I'm really going to work hard at getting it published by sometime in the summer. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. And I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I think probably the Intergalactic Resettlement Program, Meet
Great.
the New Neighbors, because I think sooner or later we got to get used to,
Right,
we got new neighbors.
Right. We're going to be disclosed here. Thank you, Carrie and Holton, for the show. Thank you for it's a great show. I enjoyed it. And also, I'm going to put your sites up on the little content of the video that I share and distribute. So you've been listening to the Dave Emmons Show. Karen Holton, my guest. I'd like to say thank you for listening and staying with us, and thank you for the support. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.